Okay, so far. All right. Well, it says that we're live, but I know on Twitter we're live. Pretty sure on
This one right here, BGC plus plus.
Was it a new one?
Hey,
Yeah.
hey. All right, guys. Sorry, we yeah, you just blame Phil, right? That's the problem between the keyboard and the chair.
Hey, everybody.
We've got John Seth.
I'm
with
here
us,
on Pleb
right?
Underground with Phil and Clark Kent. TC, whose real name is Bill Shankadoodle. And he doesn't want that out.
Okay, guys, we believe we've got the video fixed. We believe we have the audio fixed. And right now, joining us is John Seth. For the people, for the noobs who don't know who John Seth is, he had a awesome podcast with Chris DeRose called Bitcoin Uncensored. Okay, and if you can find any episodes of that, you definitely should check it out because he is pretty much the original destroyer of shitcoin narratives. So
Yeah.
I mean, for me, that's
It's a collectible. Someone should
the way I
put
see
them
it.
on Ruins or something like that. All the episodes.
Okay, so look, so you're here to talk about CTV at the conference.
Well,
Or what's your
covenants
panel
in
about?
general.
What's your panel?
Covenants. So we're talking about covenants today. Covering them. I've never been a technical person, so I'm on with a bunch of very technical guys. I think Rusty Russell's on the panel. Reindel's on the panel. Some guy named
Reindel's a shitcoiner.
What's that?
Huh? I said Reindel's a shitcoiner. Okay.
Reindel is a bit of a shitcoiner. Reindel, who else is on the panel? Brandon Black at Swan, and then some guy named Johan Han.
So what are you guys talking about? Like, is it like what specifically about covenants do you want to cover, or do you?
So the first thing I want to do, I think we're going to do a little preview because I think there's a lot of Bitcoiners who are not as internet is online as we are. So we're going to do a little bit of a brief overview of what covenants actually are. And then from there, I think we're going to go into the different proposals and talk a little bit about what the advantages of each type of covenant is and or what each type of proposal, what the benefits of each proposal are, and then the differences, and then I think from there, based on the scope of the disagreement and the breadth and loudness of the disagreement, we're going to move into like a mud wrestling phase where I think Rusty will take his shirt off. Reindel will take his shirt off, and they'll probably just maybe get naked in like a tub.
Go on.
Well, that'll probably be the end. I think actually we're gonna probably decide which BIP gets accepted, which BIP proposal gets accepted, based on the mud wrestling results. So,
are you convinced about OpCat yet?
I watched an Andrew Polster thing, and I was like, well, OpCat's the best proposal.
You think so?
Well, then I talked to Brandon Black, and then I decided that Ellen Hance was the best. And then I've spoken to Rusty, and I have like new ideas. So I try to be fair. I try to take the position of the last person I spoke to, and just kind of view that as like what the best advice I could get. So Ellen Hance is what I was on last night. I'm onto that. We'll see. Maybe at the end of the panel I'll have a different opinion. But I think that covenants are really cool, and I think that there's sort of, what's interesting about covenants, I think, is that in Bitcoin there are these things that are lacking, that are missing, and I think most of us don't really know what Bitcoin is capable of and what it's not capable of. And the guys who are technical, a lot of the programmers are struggling to do some of the things they want. And we see this with Lightning. Lightning needed quite a bit of code added. I think we needed to get rid of malleability and other none such in order for Lightning to really be effective. So, you wouldn't even know that malleability is a thing if you're not a highly technical Bitcoiner. So, for those of us who are kind of on the sidelines, I think we do a lot of watching and listening, and it's just interesting to watch sort of the space evolve, especially on something as sort of large and valuable as Bitcoin is. Like the fact that there's still stuff that we need to add and change is surprising, especially this big. Like scripting is a big thing.
So what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on just because you just touched on Lightning, and I guess my question to you is, do you think that Lightning actually is the L2 solution? I know it is the one we have now, but like I hate that. You know what it is? It's that world of the unknown unknowns, right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
what
I
are
mean,
your
there's
thoughts?
a lot of proposals on the table. I know ARC and others have been proposed. Whether it's going, I tend in Bitcoin, I tend to say things like, I think like Paul Stortz has been advocating drive chains. I tend to say things like, we need drive chains or something like it, right? So like whether Lightning is the final iteration of what L2's, what an L2 is going to look like for us. It might be that we have 3 L2s or 1 L2 that really wins the day. Whatever the case is, I think everybody knows that we need Lightning or something like it. And so I don't really make bets on that stuff. The beautiful thing about Bitcoin is, like Lightning, for example, your money, your coins are stuck in these transactions, but they can be pulled back out. So, the nature of Bitcoin is very different than shitcoinery, where the proposal basically of shitcoins is that if you want your money to be valuable, you need to keep up on the space and make sure that you're ready to like switch your money to like the next big thing every couple of years. And that's just not how money works. So the beauty of Bitcoin is that if it's in the ecosystem, if it's done the Bitcoin way, if it's done right, it doesn't really matter what wins out. It means that like instead of being one of the oldest nodes on Lightning, you're going to be like a brand new node on some other new solution or something like that. But everyone's making their bets. People are building businesses around these things. Right now, Lightning is dominant. The way that I see tech work generally is the thing that is dominant tends to remain dominant, and people just kind of build around it no matter what the bullshit is. And so Lightning has a lot of bullshit. There's a lot of problems with it. There's a lot of like very scary things. I think that justice transactions are a total cop out. For example, the way that like everything in it's built beautifully. You have this like designer like, oh, this makes sense, this makes sense, this makes sense. And then you get to the end, it's like, and if you fuck up, then the other guy gets all your money. You're like, well, that's kind of it's like a Deus et Machina where like the programmer just gave up. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of critiques that I can make of Lightning. There's a lot of ways in which it works really well. There's a lot of ways in which it doesn't work at all. And I think that that's at the very least the fact that it works, the fact that this has been a lot of time that's spent on it, the fact that there are now businesses on it, as infrastructure kind of comes out and decides like what layer they're going to be building on, it's got a big head start. So I mean, like it's pretty hard for me to not think that Lightning probably on the other end is something like the winner or very much the winner. But we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of L2s coming out. There's hundreds, I feel like, of L2s that are coming out. And maybe we'll find that some are better used for certain things and others are better used for other things.
Hey, Jinseth, what do you think about eCash as almost like a scaling layer to help Lightning even be more frictionless and have more sort of trade-offs that make it more usable?
Bcash?
eCash,
Oh.
eCash, sir.
I thought you were
Like
talking about Roger Vere's product.
And Fedimints and Cashew and these kinds of things.
Well, I've looked a little bit at Fedimints. I haven't looked at Cashew. I've looked at a few of these proposals. I'm not exactly like a lot of the technical stuff. I don't understand it until I get in there. Like Lightning, everyone was explaining it to me for years, and I'd kind of look at them askew. And then I ran a node, and all of a sudden everything became very clear and obvious how it works, right? So a lot of this stuff is highly theoretical. Do you mean eCash in the sense that you have Bitcoin locked up, or like you like a tether-like instrument?
Just simply, if you run a Lightning node, you could run something called Cashew, which turns your Lightning node into a Cashew mint. At which point, people can send you sats, and you issue them blindly eCash tokens that they can then use frictionlessly, because the eCash functions like a bearer asset, and it can just be traded any way that you can move a string of text around,
sure.
right? And then all the activity of moving that eCash around while it's on the mint is essentially private to the users.
Whatever wrapper you put on it, it doesn't really matter as long as you net. At the end of the day, as long as it nets correctly, I don't give two shits what we call it or what the technicals are.
Yeah.
As long as it nets correctly. Like that's the thing with Bitcoin is it's money. Like I talk to people all the time. They're like, well, what's so interesting about this? And I'm like, the thing that's interesting about Bitcoin is it's the first digital thing that can't be replicated. If I have it, it comes at the expense of you having it. having it, which is different than that like music CD you gave me. He gave me a beautiful set of like Britney Spears, like the Britney Spears anthology today. And you know, the thing is, I know it's all stolen, and he took it, he made the CD for me, and now I have the CD, but now we both have the CD. So like, you know, my having it comes at no detriment to you, which I think has been interesting because like for years, like people like the libertarian response to theft and piracy has been like, well, you know, theft is when someone takes something and it's at the detriment of you having it. And like it's a legitimate point because that is how theft has always worked. I come into your house, I steal the thing most interesting to me, like your mattress, obviously, and I take it out, you know, I carry it out and I sleep on it. Now you don't have a mattress, right? So you got to buy a new mattress. So like we can't both have the mattress. And in the digital realm, we've never had anything like that. And then Bitcoin happened. And all of a sudden, for the first time, we have this asset that if I have it, you can't also have it. So as long as it nets at the end of the day, as long as it serves the function of me having it and you not having it, as a non-replicable digital asset, it serves the function of Bitcoin. And that, like, you know, whatever it degrades to, if you have, you know, like an eCash type system that's like, you know, a layer on top of it and it's private, whatever features you want, people can opt into these. Maybe it's more expensive because it's private. I have no idea, whatever the case. As long as it nets at the end of the day and you can't have what I have, it's money.
Yeah, I mean the trade-offs with the eCash is custodial because basically the Lightning node that someone sends sats to try to get the eCash is now holding those sats and can rug that person.
Right.
The Fedimint tries to distribute that with a distributed group of mint of people participating in the mint.
So I mean, it
And
sounds
so
like it's a difference.
trade-offs.
It's the difference between like drive chain security model versus like
Exactly.
liquid security
It's a different security model, but you do get some very interesting benefits as far as you know, basically free transactions, basically totally private transactions, and you're trading off the custodial ownership in that way. But a lot of people that use Lightning have done that
Right.
anyways.
You know, it's funny. Like when we were doing Bitcoin Uncensored, I was always on top of like what the newest thing was. I'm very much more passive these days. I kind of wait until things happen. I see the white papers coming out, but like I'm less excitable. Bitcoin for me is this thing it's developing. Like we're seeing, you know, programmers are trying things. We're in. I've been hanging out in Clubhouse a lot the last few years, and we have a couple people in there who are every single new thing. They're coming in and they're excited and they're like, "This is the next new thing. Bitcoin's going to change every little thing every day," and it's fun. It's fun to be that involved in that like sort of online, if you will. But I enjoy the passivity of kind of watching the network develop and getting to see failed projects fail before I even know what they were. So you know, like
Absolutely.
yeah, with Lightning, I'd love to see these other projects succeed, or you know, whatever happens. I'd love to see Lightning work. I'd love to see like its problems fixed. All of this stuff is stuff I'd like to see. But if something comes out that's better, you know, as long as it's Bitcoin, as long as it nets, I think that that's really what's important. I don't really care if it does anything else. Everything else is fun and experimental.
Hello, good morning, Bitcoin. Thank you, Junseth, for holding down the fort. I've found Rusty, hunted him down, and brought him straight to you guys. Good morning, Bitcoin plus plus. Back to Phil.
Okay. Thanks. All right. So
Rusty, did you ever think you'd be sitting next to me?
I know, but
That's
yeah,
right.
dream come
Is
true,
it
right?
right?
Just wake me up. It's,
I know,
wow,
I know.
wow,
this is it,
wow.
guys.
Let me just bask in that moment.
No, that
right
big
here.
orange sun.
Yeah, wow. Cool.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
okay, I'm done. Thanks.
no, oh, you're definitely not. But okay, so John Seth was just explaining how at the beginning how his panel is going to go, and you just completed your panel. Can you talk about the op project, the opcode project that has
Okay.
been a mystery and a tease, and then we're gonna get, if possible, I want to get John Seth's take on that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So technically it wasn't a panel, it was the first talk. The panel is later. There's a Covenants panel later, which is
So close.
gonna be fun. So it's wow, okay, where do we start? Like it kind of goes through, I go through this whole journey that I went through, but in the end, we end up with kind of restoring Bitcoin script the way it was in 0.3. Because we had this emergency disable, right? Shit was on fire. There was a CVE. Bitcoin was horribly vulnerable, and Satoshi naturally, as you would, you know, I've been there. You go, okay, cut. We can fix it up later. Let's just disable all the stuff that could possibly cause a problem, right? But the process hasn't been completed, right? Because that the script we've got now is the like, you know, the shotgun script of what was left after Satoshi went, don't know, nope, cross it out, no, no, nope, 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 right, you know, and put all these limits in place. You know, and which is completely understandable. But you know, obviously the intent was, you know, we'll go back and fix it later, and we never did. So we ended up with this half script, which is where we're living now. And you know, the proposal then becomes fairly simple. Like, well, let's fix it. Of course, to fix it, you've got to actually fix the CVE. You know, there's a reason we disabled all these things. You have to actually do the work to go, how do we make sure that it doesn't actually blow
So you
up?
guys are doing your best. You want to complete Satoshi's vision.
That is a phrase I refuse to use. Especially as an Australian.
No, that's yeah. That we were. Can you talk a little bit about Bitcoin script in general? Because like the base users, people like me who are addicted to heroin, you know, hookers, you know, my friends, they don't know what scripting is or why it's important or how it's used in Bitcoin.
No.
What is scripting in Bitcoin and why does it suck?
Okay, so it's a deeper question than you would think it is. So
I don't think so. I think you took more from it than I meant. You to say.
let's see when I've answered it. Okay, so Bitcoin's a ledger. It's a way you can say these coins here belong to this key, basically, which is approximately this person, but whatever. And you can sign a message with that key to say, yeah, transfer it over here, right? That's basically how the system works. But that's not actually all that it did. Satoshi actually put a little programming language in there. So you can't just say, hey, yeah, if you own this key, you're good, you can take the coins. It's actually a tiny little program that says, if you can make this program happy, you can take the coins. And usually that means checking, you know, the program will check a signature and stuff like that. But it can do all kinds of stuff. And this was from Nick Szabo's idea of programmable money, right? That you would have control over money and you could dictate the conditions under which it would be spent. And your conditions could be arbitrary. I mean, they could be wild. I mean, obviously cryptography is great and everything else, but you know, you can write a script today that says, hey, if you can find the number which +3 adds up to 4, you can have my coin. So you could write that script today.
My wallets are all actually constructed like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Just
You know, I mean, I assume there's some kind of complicated math you could do to figure that number out, but you know, this is actually how script works underneath, right? But it originally could do all these things, and then somebody noticed that there were no limits on what you could do. Like there was okay. There are a whole heap of things you could do. Like you say, oh yeah, to take this number and just multiply it by this other giant number. I'll wait, right? I mean, it was literally, or take this number and just shift, like add zeros, just shift it, say, a few million to the left, like just you know. I mean, there were you know. And so when somebody pointed out that this was really bad,
this was the OpCat originally,
yeah,
right? So
OpCat was one of them. Like
basically, it was a script that you could put anything in.
Yeah.
And
make bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until the whole thing exploded, right?
Right. So
the
it
networks
caused an explosion in
yeah,
Bitcoin. Okay.
The network's in danger. You're like, oh shit. And so Satoshi went through all of them and went, oh no, cut that. We're gonna cut all numbers so they can only be like small. That looks dangerous. We're gonna do no multiply anymore for you. Go away. No divide. Like literally just took, and you know, I don't know how long Satoshi had, but I've, you know, wake up one morning and you're like, holy shit, it's all broken, right? You're like, your first thing.
No one else figures it out.
Well, yeah, now the race is against time, right? Like before the whole thing blows up and is on fire, you have to lock the doors, right? And you just do whatever you need to do to get the exit, right? And that is absolutely. I'm not judging because I have been there, and that is absolutely what you do.
But there is scripting in Bitcoin that we've seen. Like I remember back in the day, the limitations of the scripting. You could see some of these things. Like Mike Hearn built Lighthouse.
Yep.
Which was a project that was like a crowdfunding project.
Yep.
And it was real simple scripting. I think you won a contest for this.
Yep.
And it was basically, it said like, you know, put money here. The amount of money needs to be this or send the money back, essentially.
Yep.
So like there's been cool things that have been able to be done with scripting.
Yep.
And I think the most recent, a group of guys had put together like mini script into Bitcoin,
yep.
which I don't really know what mini script is. I assume it's kind of like a mini version of script that allows you to execute certain Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned mini script because I actually tracked down a mini script's #1 hater, Reendal. You want to join us?
No, man.
No.
Right now.
Putting together the Battle of the Covenants before it actually happens. Here, Reendal.
The big users of mini script right now, like I think Rob Hamilton's been developing a lot of with Anchor Watch and such. So it's cool to see some of the scripting like really like come up now, and projects are really making a lot of use of it. Like
Yeah.
it's versus like I think a lot of the projects before have taken sort of the native Bitcoin layer
Yeah.
and been like, oh, we'll do this, but with the Bitcoin, you pay us in Bitcoin or something.
So let's be absolutely clear. If I had been designing Bitcoin, I would not have put scripting in at all. I would have been, I'd be like, oh, this is
Hold the mic closer.
there's enough other things.
Pretty much. Yeah. Now,
That's much better.
Perfect.
yeah, you have to
Yeah.
like hold it really.
You're
close.
making a lot more
He's getting
sense
his mic
now.
next.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
It's like, oh, well,
I have herpes.
That's yours from now on.
it's brutal. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I'm all here for that. Okay, let's. Okay, so where were we? That's right.
Scripting. You wouldn't have put script
Script-
in it.
I wouldn't have put
You
scripting. I would have said,
put
look,
script in it.
you know, if you can sign your keys, that's good enough. Like keep it really, really simple. But we did get scripting and we got the whole thing. And then of course it was too much and it got shotgunned. And now we have this weird, awkward subset. It's not a subset you would have chosen. It was just kind of like what was left after anything that looked like it could be a problem was removed. So we don't have scripting in Bitcoin the way you think about it. We don't have programmable money the way you go, oh, that would be amazing. And you go, oh, wait, hold on. Hold your horses. We don't actually have all the things we want. And people now, as you say, people have been playing with scripting a lot more. And now they're talking about, oh,
Would you
If only.
regret not putting, knowing in what you know now? Would you regret today not having put scripting in Bitcoin if you were Satoshi? We have confirmation that Rusty Russell is not Satoshi. He would have developed it differently.
no, I would never have used base 58 and all the Indians would be
They'll maybe, though.
consistent, but no. Anyway, no, and I would not have written it for Windows. For fuck's sake, like, no. I mean, there's a certain amount I would do for anonymity. No, I've never.
surprised.
I've never programmed the Windows.
This was made on for
I-
Windows.
There's all sorts of stuff
I was
that
shocked.
awkward spacing, all sorts of things in that code that like
Look,
even I, a non-coder, can see are weird.
yeah. But anyway, no, I would not have. And would I have regretted it? No. Do you know why? Because if we didn't have it, we wouldn't be talking about it. We wouldn't know what we didn't have. Sure, there'd be theoretical people going, "Oh, if only blah blah blah." But
No,
you'd be
like,
fuck-
okay,
no.
you live in a parallel universe, one in which you know what we have and one in which you don't.
Oh,
and then
yeah, no.
this Rusty jumps into this parallel universe and goes, "Holy shit, scripting on! I hadn't even thought of that." Would you regret the decision you'd made in this parallel universe?
Yeah, absolutely. I would
Okay,
be like,
interesting.
"Oh, we missed it." Like that was a trick that I missed. I was concentrating on money and transfer and everything else.
And there's like scriptless scripts, and you can do like schnorr tweaks, but that only gets you so far. And
That's
if
right, and
if
you
you
can-
know the full promise of script, you're not.
You can
going
have
to
a
get
signing
there.
oracle, right?
That's right.
But the
Yeah.
idea of actually baking it in and saying, "Hey, you can control," like just at a fundamental level, saying you can control how this is spent in an absolute way is it's kind of it's mind blowing. I mean that's thinking a few steps ahead. Of being able to literally program your money is, and something we've only really scratched the surface of. I really
Yeah.
feel that we're seeing a renaissance now, and that's why people are pushing up against the boundaries and going, "Oh, we're really now starting to regret the things we don't have."
Well, and I think that's why you see this covenants conversation coming from so many different directions. Is people
Yeah.
are kind of coming to we're reaching the limits of what we can do with the current semantics that we have,
Yeah.
and everybody wants to move towards multi-party control of coins or like more interesting contracting systems. And we're just discovering that we can't do it. And I think everybody's arriving at the same set of new tools or capabilities that we need in order to do that going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a beautiful summary.
So I think we're almost on the verge of doing the panel here. What is it? 11:30 we're supposed to do it? So I would push this further, but I think we actually have to go.
We should do it in front of people.
It's probably true.
Before we cut out the stream, Reardon.
Oh crap!
Good.
We
Brandon's
do have
here?
Reardon here, but he is going to come and join us again. Okay, and we are going to continue this whole entire discussion in other ways a little bit later. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning
And
in.
they'll be covered in mud when they come back. So
And we're gonna do
I
a
didn't tell you
shameless
guys about
plug.
that.
We're gonna do a shameless plug too. If you guys like the connection, now that we've got everything sorted, check out Cloaked Wireless. That's right. That is who is providing us the hotspot for this. Shameless plug. Catch you guys later. I have no